Hey friends, welcome. I am coming to you with a Q&A video, as you can tell by the title. If you're new, my name is Lynette. I live in Sarasota, Florida. I'm a mom of 4 kids. I'm married to Nick, and we have lived here in Florida for a little over 6 years. We're in our 7th winter, and we love it here, and we're very happy we made the choice to move here from Ohio. I am a Mennonite as a way of life, but I'm a born-again believer, and I love Jesus, I love the Bible, and I love sharing all things homemaking, motherhood, lifestyle. I don't like to be put in a box very much, and so you'll find a lot of variety on my channel. So I'm going to dive right into the questions. I'll be referring to my phone here because that's where I can reference them. And I most likely will not get to all of them because there were quite a number of them, and there were a lot of questions regarding Mennonites or Amish, and I'll probably be covering that quite a bit in this video. I think I did a video back in 2017 or 18 of why and how we left the Amish. I grew up Amish, if you're not familiar, and I usually feel like, well, most of you probably know that, but I still get asked, why did we leave the Amish, and how did that all happen and all of that, and I usually think, well, it's actually my most viewed video on YouTube, and I would assume that most people see it, but I don't think that's the case. So I thought I would briefly maybe try to explain what happened there and all of that as I go along. So just thought I would put that out there. Someone says, I've been to Dutchman and Yoder's in Sarasota. Are you related to the Yoders who run that great restaurant? I get asked that a lot. No, we're not. I actually don't even know the owner. As far as I know, we're not related. But Yoder is a very, very common name among Amish and Mennonites. Good morning. Someone says, will your parents be moving to Florida full time? I know you always enjoy spending time and doing projects with them. Has the Gator visit again? Have you all thought of building a home from the ground up in Florida? So, first of all, my parents actually do live here full time. So it may be if you don't follow each one of my videos, you might not have picked that up. But they've actually lived here since the end of 2020 or 2021, actually. They do go up to Ohio more frequently, especially in the summertime. They would go up there a lot more, but they are here permanently. And so, yes, they live here full time. And the Gator has not visited, although it is getting to be close to mating season again. So last year, if you don't know, we had a real live alligator right in front of our house. I have a video on it, and it was a bit unsettling, I will say that. I'm not here for the reptiles and the gators and such. They can just stay in their own territories where they normally are. But someone told us that in mating season, it's a lot more common for them to be out and about more. And we have kind of like a big, well, it's not a creek, it's more like a little lake or whatever here in our community. And apparently, he actually came by twice. We saw one other time during the night. He came and we saw him on our cameras. Thank goodness we have cameras. And we saw him over in front of like the one side of the house, and he came around the front again and went over around the other side of the house. And I'm hoping he like escaped and went over to find someone. They had a gator trapper type of thing trying to trap him and like relocate him, but I don't think they had ever gotten him. I thought they did for a while. Long story. Anyway, not a fan, okay? So, and have we thought of building a home from the ground up in Florida? Yes, we have, but not seriously. We're not anywhere financially ready to do that. Would love to hear about the transition from Amish to Mennonite if you're willing to share. So, when I was, I think 14 is when we left the Amish and became Mennonite. So the basic difference between Amish and Mennonite, and this is just me speaking from my personal experience, and I cannot speak for everyone. Amish and Mennonites generally tend to get lumped all in the same box. There's a lot of differences between us. It's sort of like denominations, if you will, in this culture. That's kind of the easiest way to explain it, and it is a culture, and that's kind of what I like to focus on. We have a lot of the same core values: community, family, helping each other out. Most of us love Jesus, but I grew up an Amish girl. We lived in southern Ohio, so south of Holmes County, 3 hours, and we were what you call New Order Amish. So my grandpa, his dad was actually one of the first ones to step away from the old order church setting because they wanted more things like Sunday school. They wanted more Bible study type things. They understood salvation and what it meant to become a Christian and live a life for the Lord and all of that, instead of just focusing on rules. And sadly, a lot of old order churches focus just on just try to be as good as you can, and that's all you can do, that there's not a way that you can know that you can be saved, which goes against what my Bible says. There's a lot of old order who do understand the new birth and maybe are still old order, and so I'm not like putting out any condemnation whatsoever. This is just me speaking from my experience, what I know in like Holmes County, for instance. So there's a lot of old order who also understand the plan of salvation and all of that, but there are also a lot who don't. And so that is going back a little historically. My grandpa's dad stepped away from the old order and he was a new order minister. And that led our family into eventually moving south of Holmes County, which was just a very small Amish community, one church, very few other like Amish or Mennonites of any kind whatsoever when we moved down there. And so in time, we kind of had a lot of church stuff to deal with. In being a smaller community, you don't have very many people to fellowship with. In the way they structure things, you have other churches that you kind of fellowship with, but they're all out of the community. It wasn't very friendly towards being Amish there. We drove a lot of tractors and really kind of only used our horse and buggy for church and maybe, a few other occasions. We would be more of the liberal new order, if you want to call it that. We had like electricity. We didn't have air conditioning, things like that. But I mean, we did tractor farming. In time, there were just enough of things going on in the church. People couldn't maybe agree on some things, and we didn't necessarily have personal issues with each other or anything. But we kind of all at one point decided, well, we don't really have anyone to fellowship with anymore, and we're probably just going to have to kind of have the church go to nothing, in other words, and people were going to kind of move or try to find a Mennonite church to join, because there were some in maybe, an hour away, or with some more talking with each other and all of that. I was young at the time, so I wasn't as involved in all of that, obviously, but we kind of all concluded, the ones that were left in Leesburg, where I grew up, that we would prefer to just stay in Leesburg. We liked it there, and maybe just all as a church join the Mennonite constituency and have a Mennonite church or a couple churches help us kind of get our feet on the ground and have some pastors come in and help us kind of get started. And that is very unorthodox. It's not something you hear of very often at all. I don't know if I've ever heard of another Amish church completely switching to Mennonite. That's what we ended up doing, and it was definitely a big switch, and it took us a while to kind of get things figured out. For a while, there was some of us who were driving cars, and some were still bringing their horse and buggy to church. We had a church house, which is also a little different from the main Amish groups in bigger communities where they gather at people's homes instead of like one location. But with it being a small community and people being more spread out, we kind of wanted a central location to be able to get to, because we'd have 10 miles between each other, and that's a long way for horses to travel, horse and buggy and all of that. So just that's kind of how the church down there had started, is having a main church house. Had the same church house, switched some things, and essentially started driving cars, and we started kind of fellowshipping with other Mennonite churches that we were kind of, similar minded with, and obviously things progressed, and, we made changes over the years. We had a lot of growing pains and things to go through, because it's definitely, there's differences, opinions. Some did end up moving away in time, and some moved in. So it's just been a, kind of evolving situation. And there are a lot more other churches in the area now. Some Mennonites, some horse and buggy Mennonites, some that are in the Bainbridge area, and those would have been there at the time. But like there's different types of, Mennonites and stuff. And that is kind of how we switched from Amish to Mennonite. And along with that, my dad was ordained a deacon after we joined the Mennonites. He was ordained deacon in our church, which he was a preaching deacon. There's different terms for it. We have what we call a bishop. He would be like the lead pastor in that church setting. At least we had a bishop, lead pastor, and then there were some pastors and a deacon. Deacon took care of the needs and like the financial end of things, but also he did preach because it was a very small ministry. We really only ever had 2 or 3. Very rarely did we have a full ministry because of the size of church. It was not a very big church. And so he was later, about a year or 2 later, he was then ordained bishop of our church there in Leesburg, and he pastored that church for, I don't even know, 15 years maybe. I could be way off on that. But anyway, until they basically moved here, that's kind of when that's the period of time he would have been there. And so they now have their own bishop and everything there. But that's kind of the history of where I came from. And so moving down to Florida here, we didn't know anyone here. And it was kind of a leap of faith. We felt like we couldn't see ourselves at the church there in Ohio long term. We loved the people. Wasn't that. It was just we kind of felt ourselves being pulled in a different direction as far as jobs. Nick wanted to become a real estate agent, which he is one as now. We felt like some of our core values and ideals for our family personally we didn't feel like we could support everything fully at the church there. And so we decided to make the move down here, and we love it. And there are definitely things that are not perfect, and there's no church that's perfect, but we love our church family, and I know that if we wouldn't have found our church here, it would be a totally different story for us. And I don't know if we'd be here, honestly, because that is very important to us to have a community of friends, and we have that. We're very thankful for it. And so that is kind of a little bit of my story there. It was very lengthy, I feel like. But anyway, is there any desire, someone asked, to teach your children Pennsylvania Dutch? Yes, they know it. They understand it. Now, the little ones probably less and less so, but somehow my 2 boys never started talking it. I don't know. I blame technology. I don't know what happened there, and I'm very annoyed by it because that is Nick and I's first language is Pennsylvania Dutch. It's a dialect of German. It's not really a written language. I've mentioned that, but like we speak it pretty much all the time. Now we have evolved into talking more English because naturally as children talk English, you tend to eventually respond back more in English, but they still understand, the boys especially understand it, and they can, say a few things here and there, but it doesn't come very naturally for them, and I'm very saddened by this. So it's something we learned as children. We didn't have to go to school to learn it or anything. It was just that was our first language. Nick was never Amish, but his parents were, and so they obviously come from the same background, and so they also still speak it, and yeah. So that's kind of where we are with that. We try to teach them. We try to get the kids to talk it, but somehow they don't. And then the little ones do less and less, because they talk to their siblings and all of that. So that's where that is. Are you going to have any more kids, I guess, was the question. No, we are not. We are done having children, and we are very thankful for our little family, and we feel very content and at peace with Flora. This question got a lot of likes on it. Are there ever any problems that stem from the theological differences you have with the members of your family that are Amish or stricter forms of Mennonite? Not really. So, like my grandpa just passed away in December, and my grandma is still Amish, and we have old order family members on like my dad's side, and we have a lot of new order family members on like more like cousins or like second cousins, I guess it would be for me. But we don't have anyone closely in our immediate families that are Amish. And I would say, yes, there are definitely things we would view differently. Maybe not theologically. I would say no, we don't view things different in that sense, really. Maybe there's some small differences, but the base of our beliefs are the same as far as the Bible and all of that. We practice things differently. So there's some differences there, but not that we can't like get along with each other or anything. Another one, I loved watching your channel. It takes me to a calm place. Well, thank you. I'm not the most calm person, honestly. She asked, do you have friends that aren't Mennonites or Amish? Yes, for sure. We have many of them. You have a beautiful smile. How do you keep your teeth so white? Thanks. I don't know. I drink a lot of coffee. Speaking of which, I still have some here. I did, back in the day, after I got my braces off, I had very, very badly stained teeth, mainly because I could close my mouth. My teeth were like buck teeth, if you will. So I had to have braces, and after I got my braces off, I did the Crest Night Effects. I don't think they have those anymore. You put them on during the night, and I know there's lots of other things now available that are not as toxic, but I did use Crest white strips frequently. After that, maybe every so often I'd use some, and just to kind of like touch them up. And my teeth never I never dealt with sensitivity. So like my husband, for instance, he can't do those because his teeth are too sensitive. So I do use some Lumino white strips occasionally, but nothing consistently. So I don't know. Not really anything at the moment. I don't feel like they're always that white. I think sometimes depending on cameras and things, they make them appear whiter than they are, but it's something that I do try to keep up with. If you could go back in time and tell yourself before you had kids any advice, what would it be? That one comes from Madison Kelly. I'm trying to think about that question. I would probably just tell myself to not set as high expectations and just to relax and to be consistent, because consistency is something that I find really hard to do in parenting. At what age do girls wear the hair covering? Can girls join competitive sports, golf, swimming, gymnastics, etc.? Oakland loves animals. There are 4-H groups. They care and show animals. Yes, all of those are good questions. At what age do the girls wear hair coverings? Well, that's a bit of a nuanced question because it really just varies as far as, again, the denominations or the type of church you grow up in or you're a part of. For our girls, I'm not sure yet what that's going to look like. I would love for them to be able to have a conviction for it themselves and choose to wear it. We don't have a set standard in our church as far as that goes. It's basically we as members are supposed to wear a covering, but there's no deciphering on when or what type or anything. We have a lot of variety in our church. It's more of a non-denominational type of Mennonite church, if you will. A little bit unorthodox, I guess, in the whole scope of the Mennonite world, in a sense. So there's a lot of variety in our church, and we really like it. So I grew up as a little girl wearing a covering at, I don't know what age it was, because I was Amish. I mean, probably 2 or 3, depending. Maybe if you go to church, you wore it. And so I see benefits of it. I don't have ill feelings. I was taught growing up what it means to wear a head covering and why we do it. It was something that my parents taught me, and it's something that in our smaller Amish or Mennonite community, I got this question a lot more than probably you would in a bigger Mennonite or Amish community, because people are more used to it there. In Southern Ohio, it was not nearly as common to see Amish and Mennonite. So I got the question like, what is that thing on your head, or what is that, or they don't know what to call it type of thing. And we base it on 1 Corinthians 11. If you are not at all familiar with it, it talks about women covering their hair when they pray, and also as a sign of submission to God and to your husband. I'm probably not going to go into detail. I feel like I've touched on this fairly frequently in the past, but it definitely will vary from person to person, how they look at it, how they feel about it. I don't personally feel like it's a heaven or hell issue. I'm not going to judge anyone who doesn't do it, but I do feel a conviction to wear it myself. But I do feel like, I think I've heard the thing, and I've read some stuff on the Greek meaning of the word cover, talks about it in different ways, meaning that there's actually a physical covering that Paul was talking about in that passage. So all that to say, I would love for the girls to, develop their own conviction about wearing a covering, but I don't know if we've decided one way or another. Also, can girls join competitive sports? And I had gotten this question in another place too. Yes, here I would say that is more a common thing. For instance, like volleyball in school, I'm sure you could join a golf team if you'd want to or try to play competitively. It's not as common though, I will say that. In our setting growing up, we played a lot of sports. I mean, I played softball growing up. I played volleyball in my teen years. I played a little bit of basketball in school, nothing professional. We only went to 8th grade too. That was another thing. So the thing of playing competitively is not very common in the general scope of Mennonites and Amish. I will say that. That's not very common at all. We would not have played competitively in like Ohio. How do you keep your home running smoothly with 4 kids, work, etc.? Do you have tips on planning your days, weeks, meals, etc.? I am not a big planner. I've never been. I've tried, but I kind of store everything in my head, and I'm naturally, I guess, a go-getter. I am probably too much of a workaholic, I'll be honest. But it is part of my nature. Is I'm not really a procrastinator by nature. I like to get things done. I like to have order, not chaos. And I do tend to stress out too much when stuff is chaotic, especially house related. So I do feel like I'm often doing something. I feel like there's always something to do as a mom. I don't know that I can just speak to everyone individually because everyone functions differently, in other words. So what works for me might not work for you. So I used to be pretty diligent in my weekly cleaning, especially when I only had, for instance, just the boys before the girls came along. I was able to do that much more. My time allowed for it. I can't necessarily do a single day of every week I clean the whole house at once. And that bothers me because I would like to do it that way because that's kind of how we grew up. But I just don't have the capacity to do it. So it's more of an as needed basis. That's how I have been cleaning for the last how many years. Just if I see something's dirty, I'll clean it type of thing. And occasionally, I'll get most of the house cleaned. But I have been implementing this planner, and I talked about it in a few videos back or so. The Weekly Household Planner by the Confident Mom, Susan Hyde, and I've been kind of getting to know her a little bit, but I found her on Instagram and she kept talking about this planner and I kept listening but didn't do anything about it. And I finally kind of looked at it a little bit more and I was like, maybe this could work for me. I'm not a planner person. I just can't ever seem to actually do it every week. And like I said, I store things in my brain. I'm not a menu planner, although I should be. But anyway, she breaks it down into daily tasks and then there's weekly tasks and she has things that come on repeat every week. But then there's things she switches out. So one Saturday she might have cleaned the car seats, but then the next it could be something different. So she touches on things, breaks it down every week, and it's just in small manageable tasks. It might take you half an hour to do everything, might take you an hour, just kind of depends. She has a spot for notes. She has a place to put a menu if you want to. Daily stuff if you like to check things off. You can also customize it. She sends it as a PDF and will send it to your email and you can order it. Sorry, if you hear my beeper going off, it's my sourdough in the oven, but I'm trying to finish this question. But she sends it as a PDF and it's very inexpensive. I think it's on sale for $29. Plus, I have a 10% off discount code for you. I'll put it in my description box if you're interested. She touches on pretty much the whole house. Then you just print it out at a local store or your own printer at home, or you can order it online, whatever. I have been enjoying it. I thought I'd show you what I just pulled out of the oven before I keep going. This is what was beeping. I made a dill and cheddar loaf. The cheese I actually put in was mozzarella and Gouda because that's what I had on hand. But I'm excited to dig into it. I have tons of dill in my garden and I've actually yet to really make a dill loaf. And so this is the one I made today. Also had made a farmhouse type country style bread loaf, just like a regular bread loaf. I guess sourdough. I was asked what are my hobbies. Sourdough could be a hobby for me, I guess, although it kind of comes and goes in spurts, but it was something new I learned a couple years ago, and I still dabble in it some, and it's enjoyable. Also, random, but I really love my sweater top here. I found it on Amazon. You do need to wear something underneath it, in my opinion, because it's see-through, but It's really fun, perfect for Florida, and I found it, I think it's under $20. Getting back to some of the other questions. Any hobbies? Here's where I was talking about the hobbies. Other than gardening, and do you have any pet peeves? Your favorite YouTube channels? You are mine. Well, thank you. I do enjoy gardening. It's kind of a new hobby because at one point I did not enjoy gardening and I didn't grow up loving it. Mom didn't love it. I think it was kind of passed down. Now we loved flower stuff and like landscaping or flower beds, and I love plants and things like that. But just your traditional gardening was not ever something I enjoyed. But I am enjoying my raised beds that I've been trying out. So another hobby I have, I guess I would call it a hobby, is traveling. I love traveling. It is just in my blood, but traveling takes a lot of money and time, and so I don't do it as much as I'd like to. That's a hobby for me. I love coffee. I feel like that's kind of a hobby. I enjoy going to coffee shops. I enjoy shopping. I'm trying to think what else. I love decorating. Any pet peeves? Yes, I have many pet peeves. I'm trying to think what a pet peeve would be right off the bat. I cannot handle clutter, and it's a really, really big pet peeve of mine is clutter. Favorite YouTube channels? I am subscribed to a lot of YouTube channels, but I don't nearly get to watch all of the videos. Just don't have the time. But I do enjoy the Stew Crew, which is Evan and Carlin Stewart. They are vloggers. She is one of the Bates family, if you're familiar with them. A lot of their children have channels, but I really enjoy Evan and Carlin, just their humor. I love their style. I enjoy that one. I also love This Golden Hour, Steph. She's a good friend of mine, and she is just super talented in so many ways and is an inspiration to me. And I've mentioned her. Go check her out. She does beautiful videography. She's a mom of 5. She's a farmer's wife, and she just excels at so many different things, and her style of filming is just beautiful, and she has worked so hard to grow her channel, and I'm so proud of her. So I enjoy her stuff. I enjoy her content as well. It's inspiring, and I really love it. Do you miss Ohio? Best state in the nation, OHIO. Go Buckeyes. I do miss Ohio in the fall, and I do love the summers up there, but I do not like the winters and the cold weather and the dreariness and all of that. So I don't really miss it. There's maybe certain things occasionally that I would miss, but it's not, I feel blessed to say that I did not really struggle with homesickness after we moved down here. And maybe that was just a gift from the Lord. I don't know, but we do love it. Well, there's things here that we don't always like. You kind of have to, well, you have this instead of that, or, that kind of thing. So I don't really miss, except for the fact sometimes that I wish that we'd be closer to, extended family. What's your perspective of homeschooling? Would this ever be a thing you could see doing with your kids? No, unless I'd have to. I am very thankful for our Christian private school that we have for the kids. While it's not perfect, it is something that I feel like they benefit from greatly. Being taught by someone other than me, I feel like I would struggle very much because I don't feel like I'm a teacher at heart, and I don't have the patience for it, honestly. I think they just do much better in school than they would if I would teach them. Not saying we couldn't if we had to, like I said, but it is not something that either of us have any passion for or feel like we should do personally at this time. I know you do some cooking in your videos. Do you ever make whoopie pies, or do you have a recipe for them? I don't have a good recipe for whoopie pies, honestly, and I do not make them very often, mainly because they're a little time consuming, but I love me a good whoopie pie. I will say that. Where would you and your family like to go on vacation? Oh, goodness. That goes to my thing of traveling. I would love to travel so many different places. I would love to go to Hawaii. That's been a dream of mine. I would love to go to Italy. I would love to go the west coast of California. And I've been to California, but I've not been like the northern part of it. I was in San Diego as a little girl, but I'd love to travel up the West Coast, up into Washington, Oregon. I've not been there. I would love to see the East Coast, like the northeastern states. There's just so many places. And then obviously if you go out of the country, so many places I'd love to visit. I don't know. We don't have anything major planned at all for our family at this point. And so I'm not sure what will happen next. How do you handle church meltdowns or bad behavior with your children when they were toddlers? Need help. I feel you. We are still kind of in the thick of it. And she's kind of maybe out of the worst of it as far as church goes. But I would say the main thing is to be consistent once again. And we don't have like a children's church. We have Sunday school for 3 and older, but up until that point, we just stay in church, and we have the main church service that all the children are in. They don't have like a separate service where they go out and they're not with their parents. So something that can really help is if you make them sit at home. Now, I was never consistent with that. I will just be honest, but I did try it one time and I did see a difference. It kind of took a while. I think she was maybe 9 months or so. We sat with her for a while at home. We just make her sit, and they don't like to sit, but like it trains them to have to just sit quietly or look at a book or whatever, and it paid off. But then I kind of slacked off again. And anyway, if you go every Sunday, it does get easier because they're used to it and they have to be quiet. It's something you just have to kind of deal with. And I would say don't be too quick to always take them out, because children are very smart and they pick up extremely quickly that, going out can mean different things. It can mean if I yell, my mom or dad will take me out and I can run around, which can be okay in certain ages. It's just certain ages are hard. They can't just sit for an hour at a time, you know what I'm saying? So I think that for us, we try to, if we do take them out, we try to deal with it, and then we try to come back in. Like, we don't typically make a habit of taking them out and then just letting them free roam unless it's a really long day or whatever the case. But I think if they learn that they're not just going to go have freedom the minute they get out, then it will eventually start to pay off. And kids are going to be kids, and they're not perfect. And, it's okay. It's important to let children be in church. I'm not the expert because we're still in the middle of it. And people in church would, I'm sure, tell you that our children are not perfect. So, all right. I think I'm going to end it with this question. Always interested in your spiritual journey, including any books, podcasts, music, or encouragement that you use in addition to your Bible reading and prayer time. Last year, I went through the whole Bible, read through it, used the ESV version, and I'd highly encourage you to do it if you have never done it, or if you just even do it again. This year, now, I started going through the book of John, the Gospel of John, and I have a devotional from the Daily Grace Co. that focuses on John. It's called Come and See, and I really am enjoying it. It's just breaking it down into smaller sections, and I like it. It's something different than what I was doing. And as far as podcasts or music, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but I would have a couple of recommendations. Honey, I'm Homemaker, which is Megan Fox's podcast she does with her cousin Jana. And they're also Mennonites, if you're curious about more of the Mennonite culture, lifestyle. Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone here on YouTube, she has a podcast. I occasionally tune into that one. I think it's called the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. As far as music goes, I love Leanna Crawford right now. I love her music. I also love Ann Wilson's music. More of your country style, but she has Christian lyrics and is very passionate about that. She loves her country roots, but she loves the gospel and she loves the Lord, and her story is incredible. I feel like she has a really good testimony about just how she came through with her brother getting killed in an accident, and she just has a really good heart, and I think she's a great role model for young girls. I love her stuff. So with that, I am going to end the video. It has been lengthy enough, and I know I didn't get to everything, but maybe another time. Hopefully this was encouraging and maybe just informative in some way. And yeah, I appreciate you all being here. If you enjoy my content, always share it with your friends if you feel like it. That helps us out. Hit the like button, leave a comment. I appreciate that very much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!